Hello and welcome to the first video lecture from Math 119 at York College. My name is Steve Dalton, the professor, and this lecture is going to cover some of the basic things about this semester in Math 119, as well as some introductory topics that are useful throughout the semester. First, I'd like to talk about who I am, give you a brief introduction to your professor. I've been at York for several years now, and every semester I've been here I've taught Math 119. In fact, I've usually taught multiple sections per semester. Before that, I graduated from Brooklyn College, so I am a CUNY student myself. Before that, I actually went to culinary school where I made some pretty good food. And something about me that's not education based, I have adopted dog Rex, who I'm obsessed with, and I take lots of pictures. Back to the introduction, we're going to cover three things today. First and foremost, getting started, I'm going to show you how to use Blackboard to begin the class, show you where some of the most important things are on there and how to navigate. I'm going to show you how to submit a graded assignment and how to make sure your submission has gone through. And finally, I'm going to show you some of the more nuanced areas of Blackboard that are going to be useful as the semester progresses. Okay, so let's do our first section, getting started. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is to navigate to the Blackboard page. And I can do that by opening up my favorite browser. And I'm going to go, there's many ways to get to our Blackboard. My preferred way is to actually go to portal.cuny.edu. I hit enter. And that takes me to the CUNY portal page. Here I can log in with my username and password. Or if I don't know my username and password, I can actually click on this link right here, which is the account and password reset link. Clicking on that link takes me to a page where I enter in my first name, my last name, my social security number, and then my date of birth. Clicking next would then give me my Blackboard name and a temporary password, which would allow me to log in for the first time and then change my password to something more permanent. Because I actually do know my login name, I'm going to go back to this page and enter it here. But if you don't, if this is your first time using Blackboard, for example, that's the link you want to go to. So for me, I'm going to type in my username and password. That's going to take me to the first page of the CUNY Blackboard. Right here, in this area here, is all these different links. The second one from the top is the one we want, labeled Blackboard. Clicking that opens a new tab and takes me to my Blackboard page. There's a bunch of things on Blackboard that I don't really want to get into. What we care about most is this panel over here on the right, which is my courses. As you can see, I have a lot, but for us, the one we're interested in is the Math 119 link. So I'm going to click on that link. And that's going to take us to our Blackboard page. Whenever you open the Blackboard page, the first thing you'll see is this Start Here page. The Start Here page has all the information you need to know for getting started in Math 119 this semester. You'll see there's an intro right here with a link to the syllabus, a link on how to get Mathematica, the software we use for all our assignments. There's also a quick introduction to all the sections on Blackboard over here, which we'll cover in more detail later in this video. And then some things that are kind of important for this class, things I expect from you, what it means to be a good student in this class, things you should expect from me, what it means for me to be a good professor and instructor in this class, and finally, a pretty well-worn bulleted list on how to do well in this class, how to get a good grade and how to succeed on all your assignments. I would definitely recommend reading through each and every one of these and make sure you're trying to do that week in and week out. Okay, so now let's talk about assignments. We're going to go to the week 0 getting started page. As you can see, all the weeks are listed here on Blackboard. We're going to go to week 0. And when I click on that link, I'm presented with a few things. A short text introduction, pretty much repeating some of the most important things from the getting started page. A video, this video in fact, and then later down here, the actual assignment. We'll talk about discussions in next week's video, but for this one we'll just talk about the assignment. All the introductions and stuff for the assignment are right here. We see that the due date is here. We see a text version of how to do the assignment and submit it, but let's just go through it in video form. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to this lab00.nb file. I'm going to right click that. That's going to open a menu here, and I'm going to go to anything. Depending on your browser, it's going to be worded differently, but I'm looking for something that says save link as or something like that. I click on that, and a save window opens up. I can save pretty much anywhere I want as long as I'm on my own computer. On the school computers, you have to save to something called the S drive. The S drive is the student drive. It's where you can save student work. But let's assume right now that you're on your own computer. So I'm going to save to, let's say, my documents folder. I click save, and that file downloads. Now, depending on your browser, it will show up down here in a bar right here. For Firefox, it shows up right here in this download screen. But no matter where it is, it downloads, and then I go and I open it up. Now, when I open this lab up, if you haven't already installed Mathematica, nothing's going to happen. I do have Mathematica installed, so it works, and I'm going to talk a little bit later in this video about installing Mathematica. But for right now, let's just assume that it's been installed. So Mathematica takes a few seconds to initialize, and eventually the window will launch, showing what Lab 0 looks like. It's taking a little bit too long here. Okay, looks like we're finally going to get going here. This is how every lab is going to look when you first start. It's going to have this very important instruction here. You should always, before you do anything in the lab, click this Enable Dynamics button. This gets everything going, allows me to generate dynamic content so that you can actually do the lab. Other than that, it's pretty self-explanatory. You enter your name here. Try to use your full name. That's easiest. I'll use my full name. And then I'm going to simply click the Start the Lab button. When I click that, the lab is actually populated with questions that are randomized based on different students, and when it's finally done, you'll see that this is what the lab looks like. In this case, it says, "Welcome to your first lab, Steve." It will say your name there, obviously. And then every lab will begin with an objective. This is just kind of a broad overview of what's going to happen in this lab. I don't want to go through the actual lab with you because this is something you should do on your own to learn how the system works, but I will cover a few very important things. First, as I scroll through the lab and I read these instructions, I'll encounter periodically these gray boxes. Whenever you come across a gray box, you have to hit enter at the very least. In this case, I've already filled the box in for you, and so I hit enter. It's not the enter you're used to, though, not the one in the middle of your keyboard near the shift key. It's the enter all the way to the right on the number pad. That's the enter I'm going to hit here, and you're going to see that when I hit enter there, I get an output. If you have a laptop or some keyboard that doesn't have a number key, you want to hold shift and press enter. Either one will evaluate these gray boxes. I scroll down a little bit more, I see another gray box. Again, I filled this one in for you, so in this case I'll do a shift enter or a numpad enter, and what's inside will be evaluated and give me output. Later on, right here, we'll see an example of a gray box where there's nothing inside. The instructions are right here on what to do. But in this case, you're going to actually enter in your own stuff. And as we go on, what you enter in will become more and more complicated. But for this one, it's actually pretty easy. You kind of just mash the number pad and just type in a bunch of numbers. And when you're finished, you hit enter. Please note the difference between this gray box and this gray box. Over here, the lab had started with this gray box completely filled in. This was entered by me, the professor. Down here, this gray box was empty. The computation was entered by me, the student. You'll come across both types of gray boxes in every lab you do. What's really important is that as you do the lab, you make sure that you're constantly going up to File, Save. You should be saving your labs always, always. You don't want to lose any of your work, especially for the longer labs. You continue on, you read the lab. I'm not going to do all these questions, obviously. You should do it on your own. I read the lab. Every lab will end with a closing question section. These are questions that are relevant to the stuff you just read through and evaluated, and ask you to do a little bit of the work on your own. For example, this first question asks you to find the square root of, for me, 77,841. Probably for you the number will be different. It's randomized again. But down here I'm going to have to find somehow the square root of that number. I happen to know how to answer this, but for all of these questions, you should make sure that Mathematica is doing the work for you. You don't want to be pulling out a calculator or doing this by pencil and paper. The whole point of this class is that the program does the work for you. All you have to do is set it up to get the right answer. Again, after I do all these kinds of things, I should make sure that I'm saving frequently. Now let's pretend that I finished the entire lab. What do I do now? Well, I save one last time, that's for sure. I don't want to lose any of my final work. And then I'm going to go back to Blackboard over here. And again, this is where I found the assignment, right? This is where I right-clicked and got the assignment file to begin with. If I click this big link up here for Lab 0, it takes me to the actual assignment page. With a due date, again, we know this is due February 9th. The number of total possible points, the best you can do on this lab is a 10. But more importantly, this is where I attach my assignment. When I say attach, I mean just like you would attach a file to an email. I click Browse My Computer. I find, let's pretend this is my lab. I find my lab. Normally, however, your lab is going to have your name in it. Okay? So if I go over here and I look for my lab, I don't see it here actually. But usually it's going to have your name in it. So for me, it would have Steve Dalton. Lab 0. Let's pretend it's this file right here. I'll click Open. That attaches this file to this assignment. So now when I go down here, I can add some comments. I can say, this was pretty easy. And then I have two choices down here. Let me just zoom in here so you can kind of take a look at this. There are two choices down here. Save as draft or submit. Save as draft means that you're not done with the lab yet, but you're going to finish it later on. So if you've only been able to do a little bit and you have to go and do something else, you can attach your assignment to Blackboard and save as a draft. Submit means, okay, Steve, I'm ready for you to grade my lab. I have no further work to do. What's really important is that before the assignment is due, you click Submit. Even if you originally saved it as a draft, you have to come back and click Submit. If you don't click Submit before the due date, no matter what you attached here, I have to give you a 0. That's because whatever you save as a draft is unavailable to me as your instructor. Only when you click the Submit button can I actually get access to the file you've attached. Anyway, I might hit the Submit button right here, and when I do that, that notifies me, the instructor, that you're ready for me to grade the assignment. Make sure you do that always before the due date. So in this case, for Lab 0, you want to make sure that you've attached a completed lab and click Submit before 11:59 p.m. on February 9th. Okay, and for our last section for this introductory video, I just want to show you a few more things about how Blackboard works. Again, every time you come to our classes Blackboard, this is the first page you'll see. This is our Start Here page. It already contains a few very important links. For example, we have a syllabus right here. If I click that link, that will take me to the PDF file of our syllabus. Let's go back here. We also have instructions on how to get Mathematica. Again, if you want to open any of the lab files at home, you need Mathematica on your home computer. The instructions for doing so, they're pretty easy to follow along with, are right here. Also included in that file is a troubleshooting page to help with some commonly encountered problems. If for whatever reason you can't get Mathematica to work on your home computer, please let me know sooner rather than later, because as the course goes on, it's harder for me to get time to be able to help you troubleshoot your installation, whereas in the first week or two it's really easy for me to be able to do that. Again, there's a second section here called Navigating Blackboard, which details what each of these other things over here in the left navigation pane are. Of course, this middle section is pretty self-explanatory. Each week, if I click on one of these weeks, for example, if I go to week 1 algebra, this takes me to a text description of this week, a video for that week, an assignment, and a discussion board. And again, watching the video for week 1 will give you a better idea of how the discussion board works. Some weeks are not ready yet. So for example, if I go to week 6 lines, because it's still too early in the semester, you're not going to be able to see that video or assignment yet. But as the course marches on, you'll more and more assignments will become available. There's also an announcement tab here. If I click on that, any important urgent information will be posted in the announcements. Right now it's just a welcome for me, but if I have to cancel class last minute, or if I need to change the due date on an assignment, I'll always post that to the announcements. Any kind of urgent, time-sensitive material will be posted to the announcements. If I scroll down past all these different weeks for our course, I'll see a third section which contains some pretty self-explanatory material, but let's just go through each and every one. If I click on Labs, this will give you a link to all possible labs that are still open for assignment. So for right now, there are 2 labs that are due February 9th, Lab 0 and Lab 1. As the semester goes on, more labs will be added here. Clicking any of these links will take you right to the assignment page for that particular week. If I go to course documents, These are also some documents that are useful. Again, the syllabus is located here. The instructions for getting Mathematica at home are here. And also something I haven't talked about yet, this Assignments Help PDF. This is simply a PDF that walks you step by step through submitting an assignment. So if you watch the second part of this video, this is simply a PDF version of that video. And then some more helpful web links here, some basic Blackboard tutorials for being a student on Blackboard, and also an introduction to the math editor. In case you want to enter math in any of the discussion board posts, this is the link you want to follow. Discussions, again, we'll talk more completely about discussions in the week 1 video, but here is what the discussion board looks like now. It will become more populated as the semester goes on, and again, we'll discuss that more for week 1. Groups, eventually you'll be joining a group and doing a group project as detailed on the syllabus. This is where you'll actually join a group and begin working on that project. More on that in week 3. So for right now, we don't have to worry about it. Contact professor. This is just all my contact information, my office phone number, my office location, my office hours, as well as my email address. And finally, my grades. For me, I'm not going to be able to see anything because I'm an instructor, but here you'll be able to see your grades on each of the assignments as well as your final semester grade so far. It's good to check this periodically to make sure that I personally haven't made any mistakes in your grading, and also to see how you're doing in the course so far. Finally, this last 4th section will show you some Blackboard help. This is a link to anything you might want to know about Blackboard, and also some more general help on just being a student and navigating your way around a web page. Hopefully that's enough to get you started. And again, if you ever get lost, the Start Here page, the first page you see, has pretty much anything you might need right now. The syllabus, the Mathematica introduction, an explanation of what the course is about. And as the semester goes on, you'll become more familiar with how these things work. As always, any questions about any of this, please send me an email or post something in a discussion forum for week 0, letting me know what your difficulties are. I will always get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks, and I hope we have a great semester here in Math 119.